What's going on, everybody? Khalipa's Tech here, coming back at you with another video. In this video, I'm going to be giving you 5 reasons to buy the Motorola Moto G 5G in 2022. Now, for your convenience, I will be linking to this phone in the video description, so be sure to check out that link for the latest up-to-date pricing because this is always changing. And as always, if you want to learn more about this phone, definitely check out my full review and tips and tricks videos for it on the channel. But with that being said, let's get started. So my first reason to buy the Motorola Moto G 5G in 2022 is the large display. At 6.5 inches, this display, while not being the largest one out there, is definitely a real good size, and it's going to give you the benefits of having a larger display while also not being so big that it's uncomfortable to hold in your hand or carry in your pocket. To add to this, it also has a pretty slim design, so it's not going to be too bulky either. In general, having a larger display like this is going to be great for consuming content because, of course, if you're streaming videos or playing a game, for example, things are obviously going to show up larger, and this is going to be great for stuff like reading as well. And in addition to just being larger, this display also has some pretty good dimensions with an aspect ratio of 20:9, so we're getting a taller and more narrow form factor here. So if you're doing something like watching a video in landscape mode, for example, you're going to get a much more immersive experience. And if you're doing something like reading, you'll be able to fit more content on the screen without having to scroll as much. So in general, although we're only getting a 720p resolution here, the size and the dimensions we're getting here do make this phone a pretty decent option for content consumption. Now, my second reason to buy the Motorola Moto G 5G in 2022 is the storage. With this phone, we're getting 256 gigabytes of internal storage with microSD card expansion, and this is really a lot of storage. For a mid-range phone like this, you're really not going to do any better because the only phones that actually have more internal storage than this are flagship phones, which of course are much more expensive. And remember, we do also get microSD card expansion here, so if you're really a power user, if you have a bunch of different apps and photos and videos and stuff like that, then you can always use a microSD card to expand this storage even more. But again, with 256 gigabytes, you would really have to be doing a lot on this phone to actually fill that up. So really, no matter what the case may be, with this phone, you're probably not going to have to think about storage all that much. To give you an idea of what the storage actually looks like on this phone, as you can see right here, I am using 30 gigabytes right now. I have a bunch of apps, games, stuff like that, and the system is even taking up 16 gigabytes by itself. But as a percentage of the total storage, it's really not that much. It's only 12%. So even with all the stuff I have on this phone, there's plenty of space left over. So in general, if you tend to have a lot of apps, music, photos and videos, stuff like that, then the Moto G 5G is going to be a great choice for you. Now, my third reason to buy the Motorola Moto G 5G in 2022 is the 5G connectivity. Now, of course, as the name suggests, this is a 5G phone, so with this phone, you will of course get access to your carrier's 5G network and the latest and greatest technology that goes along with it. And while 4G is not going away anytime soon, and it's not the end of the world if you still have a 4G phone, 5G really is the future, and now is honestly as good a time as any to get a 5G phone. In addition to just having 5G connectivity, this phone, as most 5G phones tend to be, is pretty fast, getting 6 gigabytes of RAM with the MediaTek Dimensity 700 processor. I did run a Geekbench 5 benchmark test on it, and it came back with a single core score of 545 and a multi-core score of 1684. Now, by itself, a Geekbench 5 benchmark test score might not mean a whole lot to you, so what I recommend doing is running this test on your current phone and comparing your scores to these to see whether or not this phone would actually be an upgrade for you, because depending on what you have, your phone might actually be faster. But in general, I would say for what it is, this is actually a really fast phone, and in my time using it, I haven't had any performance issues. I've been doing stuff like web browsing, social media, streaming content like videos and music, and even a little bit of mobile gaming, and this phone has been able to handle pretty much everything with no issues at all. Now, of course, if you're doing higher end activities like playing more demanding games, or maybe editing videos or something like that, you might struggle a little bit with this phone, and it's not going to be anywhere near the level of a $1,000 flagship phone, but at the same time, for what it is, really just a solid mid-range 5G phone, the Moto G 5G is definitely great when it comes to processing power. Now, my fourth reason to buy the Motorola Moto G 5G in 2022 is the battery. With this phone, we're getting a 5000 mAh battery that supports 10 watt fast charging, so as far as the battery size goes, this is pretty much the largest battery you can get in a smartphone, at least in the US. So you're going to get a ton of battery life, probably multiple days worth depending on how you actually use your phone. So if you have a more mobile lifestyle and you're not always around a charger, then this is going to be a great thing. In addition to this, since you're starting out with so much more battery life than you need just to get through the day, down the road as the battery degrades, which all batteries do, you're not going to notice it nearly as quickly with this phone as you would with another phone with a smaller battery, like say an iPhone SE for example, and as a result, of course, you're not going to have to replace it nearly as soon. So if you like to get one phone and keep it for a long period of time without having to replace it, then having a large battery like this is definitely a nice thing. In addition to having a large battery, of course, the 10-watt fast charging doesn't hurt either. Now 10-watt fast charging compared to the competitors really isn't that great, but at the same time it's better than no fast charging at all. And in my experience, I have noticed this phone, despite not having the strongest fast charging, does still charge up pretty fast. So if you have a decently strong fast charger, like maybe one of those car chargers, something like that, and you don't always have a ton of time to charge up your phone, then having this fast charging will save you a little time and it definitely will make a difference. Now my fifth reason to buy the Motorola Moto G 5G in 2022 is the powerful main camera. Now just to give you a quick rundown of the camera setup, we got a nice looking hole punch design for the front facing camera, and this camera is 13 megapixels. Then on the back, we got a triple camera setup with a 50 megapixel main camera, a 2 megapixel macro camera, and a 2 megapixel depth sensing camera. Now as far as features go, unfortunately this phone doesn't really have a whole lot. There's no ultra wide camera, which was definitely a disappointment, especially since most of the phones that compete with this phone do have ultra wide cameras. I don't really know why Motorola didn't give it that feature, since ultra wide cameras are really useful and pretty popular. But aside from that, if you're taking more basic pictures like portrait mode pictures, or just regular pictures for social media or something like that, then this phone actually does get the job done really well. Now to give you an idea of what this camera can actually do, here are some photos taken with the main camera, and I would say they do look really good. Sure, they're nowhere near the level of something like a Samsung Galaxy S22 Ultra, but the details still look really sharp, the colors look really nice, and they're decently bright. So if you are taking a lot of photos and you don't need any fancy features like an ultra wide camera, then I would say for what it is, the Moto G 5G will definitely get the job done. But those were 5 reasons to buy the Motorola Moto G 5G in 2022. Now there are more than 5 reasons to buy this phone, and there are also lots of reasons why you might not want it, so if you want to learn more about all that, be sure to check out my other videos about the phone on the channel. And again, for the latest pricing, don't forget to check out the link in the video description, because this is always changing. But I hope you enjoyed the video, and I hope you found this information useful as well. If you did, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and hit that subscribe button, and as always, I will see you in the next video.